Hello, this is Miss Perez, third grade student assistant to Mrs. Hoford's class, and I'm going to be reading chapter 3 of Augie Cooder. Augie Cooder and Donica Perfecto were both in Mr. Snolinowski's class at Truman Elementary School. On the first day of school, Mr. Snolinowski wrote his name on the board and made everyone practice saying it slowly a few times. Snolinowski. Augie had never had a male teacher before, although he had noticed that several of his previous teachers had very hairy arms. In kindergarten, Augie had been in Mrs. Forrester's class. He had liked Mrs. Forrester. She had pretty blue eyes, wore flowery perfume, and because she had been raised somewhere in the South, when she talked, she had a gooey way of stretching out her words that made it sound like she was saying something nice, even when it wasn't. On his final report card that year, Mrs. Forrester had written, Augie is a very unusual child. One example she gave of Augie's unusualness was his tendency to grin when he had been scolded. When Augie's mother asked him why he did that, he explained that it wasn't because he thought getting in trouble was a joke. It was just that when Mrs. Forrester got mad, sometimes she said funny things. For instance, the time she caught Augie trying to sharpen a carrot, which he insisted he'd snuck into an electric sharpener by accident, thinking it was a number 2 pencil. She said, "You can put your boots in the oven, Augie Cooter, but that don't make 'em biscuits." Some parents might not have been happy about the word unusual being used to describe their child, but Mr. and Mrs. Cooter were perfectly fine with it. They made their living collecting unusual things at garage sales and auctions and reselling them at Too Good to Be Through. As far as they were concerned, the more unusual an object was, the more value it had. Over the years, Augie's teachers had found all kinds of interesting ways to describe him. Unique, quirky, one of a kind. Last year, in third grade, Augie's teacher, Mr. Stifler, had said that Augie marched to the heart or to the beat of a different drummer. Augie had found the comment surprising, considering the only instrument he knew how to play was the kazoo, and Mr. Stifler had especially told him never to bring it to school again because it was a incredibly annoying and b extremely spitty. Later, Augie's father had explained to him that saying someone marches to the beat of a different drummer is just another way of saying that a person is unusual, unique, quirky, and one of a kind. Then his mother had taken out the rubber cement and had carefully glued the report card into the family scrapbook alongside all the others. Augie sometimes wondered that Mr. Snolinowski was going to write about him on the fourth grade report card. But this particular morning, he was too busy thinking about having lost the name the bagel contest to think about much else. As he made his way to school in his seersucker pants and duck hunting shirt, he noticed Donica Perfecto up ahead, her bubblegum pink backpack slung over one shoulder. She was walking with Hannah Hummerman and Dawn Perchie, 2 other girls from Augie's class. Augie had an idea. "Hey, you guys," he called out to them. "Wait up, suck." Donica glanced over her shoulder at Augie, then whispered something to the other girls. They all began to walk faster. Augie started running and finally caught up with them at the corner, where they had gotten hung up waiting for the light to change. "I guess you didn't hear me calling," Augie panted. He was a little sweaty from his run, so he wiped his forehead with his sleeve. "Ew," said Donica. "Gugh! Gross," Hannah and Dawn said in unison, providing the ending of the word. "What do you want anyway?" Donica asked. "I was thinking, since it's Thursday, which means we've got a spelling test today, maybe we could all walk together and quiz each other on the words on the way." "Pooh," said Hannah. "Watch it," Danica snapped. "I do the first syllables." "Sorry," said Hannah, hanging her head. "Puh," said Donica. "Leaves," added Hannah and Dawn together. Satisfied, Donica nodded and pulled the tube of cherry-flavored lip gloss out of her pocket. Immediately, the other 2 girls did the same, and all 3 of them got busy rubbing sticky pink goo into their mouths. "Nice outfit," said Donica to Augie as she recapped the glass and slipped it back into her pocket. Let me guess, is that from your parents' store? Yippers, said Augie as he smoothed the front of his shirt with his hand. He didn't notice Hannah poke Don in the ribs or how they were both biting their cheeks to keep from laughing. So, do you want to practice the spelling words? He continued. I even made some flashcards. He fished around in his duck pouch and pulled out a bunch of beat up index cards riddled with what appeared to be tooth marks. Turk tried to eat them, but don't worry, most of them spit should most of the spit should be dry by now. Donica sighed loudly and tucked a loose strand of long honey gold hair behind her ear. I've got two words for you, Augie Cooder, and they're both ew. When the light changed, Donica Perfecto and her glossy-lipped posse stepped off the curb. As they flounced away, Donica called back over her shoulder. Love your shoelaces, Augie Cooder. Thanks, said Augie, completely missing the sarcastic tone in her voice. I made them myself. Loo, said Donica under her breath. Zer, added Don and Hannah, and the three of them dissolved in a fit of high-pitched giggling. As Augie watched them walk away, he sighed and reached for his back pocket. This would be such a perfect time to carve, he thought. But he stopped himself. He really should study his spelling flashcards once more before he got to school. The carving would have to wait a little longer. And that's chapter 3.